But let's talk about Larson for a minute, Stevie, because like you mentioned, he affected certainly Hamlin on that last restart because he had the best car. The 5-1 stage one, it was dominant until this strategy decision with, I think, about 100 to go, where Cliff Daniels, crew chief, elects for tires. Kyle Larson agrees. And after that, it was just kind of all catch up. Is that sort of where it went wrong?
So you got to flip it. So what happened was a caution came out and the 9 and the 5 elect to not take tires. So what happens is it's a limit of tire sets. I had 8 sets in the pits. We had enough yellows that, you started to get that pit of your stomach feel. We're like, man, we got a couple yellows in that final stage. I'm not sure we're going to have enough tires. We need to have enough tires. So there was a handful of tires on their, or handful of laps on their tires. So they said, we're going to stay out. And that was really the turning point. Then the 5 chooses the top and does not get the restart he needs, loses control of the race, and plummets back to like 20th.
Yeah.
Chase Elliott on the same strategy leads all the way until like 2 to go in the stage. He actually finished 3rd in stage 2. So on the same call, running right next to the 5, he finishes 3rd. Kyle Larson finishes 19th. So 16 spot gap. And this is what I think makes the 5 dangerous. The radio from Cliff, that's on me. We should have took tires. I was too worried. Kyle Larson, well, I hear your point, but I didn't do us any favors. I chose the top. I shouldn't have chose the top. I put us behind. Small details, both decision makers of this team taking ownership of their hand in the issue. Larson didn't say, yeah, you screwed me. And Cliff Daniels didn't say, well, great damn restart. You killed my strategy. Yeah. They both looked in the mirror and said, I could have done something different. I think they're both right. I didn't love the call staying out on tires because I thought you could have took those scuffs and put them away and put them on later in the race. But, that's because I can say it now because the race is over. And I know how it worked out. In the moment, I didn't like it either. Just, I don't know. I felt like we were getting a long run, but it's a coin flip. It really is a coin flip. Now, what I will say is that it was fun to watch because then we had a caution like 3 laps into the stage 2 and stage 3. And he goes, I'm going to put some tires on and just see what you can do. And it was fun because he drove that thing from 26th to 15th in about 2 laps. And it ended up being, until the final yellow, it was the start of the long green flag run. And I actually thought Larson had a chance to recover and come all the way up and win the race. It would have been a recovery of the ages. But that is where the 5 lost control of the race, was the decision to, not take tires and then not a great restart.
Yeah, it was impressive to watch. But I'm glad you brought up the demeanor of Larson and Daniels, because I noticed that as well in the interview that Larson did with Dave Burns after the race, where this is his 3rd season at Hendrick Motorsports. He's a champion already, certainly a championship favorite this year. But it seems like we've seen a different Larson, especially this year. And the way he and Daniels sort of relate to each other, react with each other. I mean, I'm sure partially it's just Larson's older. He's more mature. He's been doing racing for his entire life and he's into his 30s now. But it does seem as if he takes more ownership, and he's not the guy, he's not the kid at Ganassi from 10 years ago who sometimes would, kind of give you this air of that he just sloughed things off and maybe didn't care. There's a sense of accountability and responsibility here. And I think some of that is Daniels, but I think some of that is just Larson being a different driver at Hendrick.
That, and it's something to do with the year that they've had. I mean, when you go back and look at the championship year, if it had 4 wheels and a steering wheel, he won in it. And he's as talented as he was this year, and the cars he's driving, I think, are about as good as they were that year, except it is truly hit or miss. Not all their own doing, but the 5 car is either like lights out wins or disappears.
Had an interesting incident, Stevie, with his teammate Chase Elliott. Last pit stop, they're coming out of the pits. Brad Keselowski's coming out as well. He squeezes Larson a little bit. Larson hits Elliott. Elliott expresses some displeasure, it appeared, although he sort of was asked about it afterward, and Chase Elliott said, no, we're all good. Larson said, hey, I hope when Chase sees the replay, he understands I didn't have any space or not much. Larson told Dave Burns that. Where do you think things stand here? I mean, is it put to bed? I mean, because this isn't the first time that Larson and Chase have sort of had their issues on track.
I think it's put to bed, and I love to see it out of Chase.
Yeah.
You know, I wondered if the guy who missed the playoffs, I don't want to say, I'm never going to say he's not there to win, because I believe Chase straps in to try to win. But when you are a winning driver and a champion and you get eliminated from the playoffs, it would be remiss, it would be a major lie to think that it doesn't change your approach. You don't have the same, whatever it is. Use whatever analogy you want, but he doesn't have the same opportunity in front of him as he does the 16 playoff drivers. That's fact. He cannot be a champion this year, which is his goal, which was his goal in February. So he has said since returning from injury, he has been very consistent that we need to win. He has never talked about points. We need to win. You guys in the media talk about points. I've said we need to win. I thought it was a good distraction and deflection earlier. Maybe he saw what we didn't want to see. Maybe he said, if we can't win, it doesn't matter, because we're going to have to win in the playoffs. So I say all that because what I saw out of Chase was a weekend where he was in the winning picture and the fire was still there. The fire was still, he didn't smash into the 5. He didn't, disrupt anybody's day. He showed his displeasure, which if I'm a Chase fan, I feel good about the money I spent on that t-shirt. But now I still see the fire of the driver, who doesn't give you a lot of fire in his interviews, and that's not his fault. He's been the same way his whole career. But he's not Bubba. Like, he's not going to get out and go through this range of emotion in an interview. That's just not Chase.
Yeah.
He does it behind the wheel. He always has. And I know it wasn't a win, but that little bit of swipe at the 5, I know it seems small, but that told me if anyone thinks that the 9 could care less about the playoff guys, I shouldn't say could care less. He shows them respect. But if anyone thinks he's going to take a backseat to the playoffs or the backseat to a driver, no way. He's trying to win for him, for his team, for his crew chief. There's going to be conversations about, his owners in the owners championship. I think Chase Elliott, he'd love to deliver more to him, but that's not what we're seeing. What we're seeing is a driver who wanted to be a race car driver since he was a little kid. He wanted to win races. He's won races. And you know what? Losing stinks. Like, he's not having fun losing. I've done it a lot. Losing stinks. What I saw was a fired up race car driver.
Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. For more access like this from Pit Road, be sure to click and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel.